Daniel M. Cable. Exceptional. Build your personal highlight reel and unlock your potential. Narrated by Marston York and Morag Sims.
Do you criticise yourself because you think it's the best way to get better at things? Do you spend a lot of energy trying to fix what you don't do well? Well, what if you changed your approach? What if you focused on your strengths instead of your limitations? These blinks offer some answers to that question. First, they'll show you why positive feedback is much more empowering than self-criticism. Then, they'll teach you how to build a personal highlight reel of your life to discover your unique strengths. And finally, they'll explain how you can use these strengths to become the best version of yourself.
Blink 1 of 7.
Imagine you could turn on the TV every morning to watch the best moments from your past week. Perhaps you'd replay a great presentation you gave at work. Maybe you'd get a glimpse of yourself helping out a neighbour. You'd experience yourself at your kindest, most inspired and most productive. Wouldn't this make you feel amazing? Unfortunately, unless you're a superstar athlete, your personal best of won't air on TV anytime soon. And if you're like most people, the clips playing in your head are more like a blooper reel, an endless rerun of past mistakes and failures. What would happen if you trained yourself to focus on your best qualities instead?
The key message here is, to be at your best, you need to build on your strengths.
Everyone has weaknesses and limitations. To avoid making a fool of yourself, it's good to be aware of them, but simply mitigating your flaws is hardly a source of excellence. Just like a superstar athlete, you make your best impact when you lean into what you naturally do well. Research shows how powerful it can be to focus on your strengths instead of your flaws. One study from the University of Auckland followed a group of teenagers with physical disabilities over a 1-month workshop. In the first 2 weeks, the teens learned to perform several assembly tasks. Then one part of the group watched their personal highlight reel, a video of themselves working on the tasks but with all the mistakes edited out. The second group watched an unedited video of themselves. Guess which group performed better over the next 2 weeks? That's right, the teens who'd watched themselves excelling. They became a full 15% more productive than the others. That's because positive feedback about your abilities fills you with a sense of accomplishment, pride, and purpose. This inspires you to keep up the good work and to do even better. Of course, you can't go through life filming every great thing you do, but there's a way to create your personal highlight reel without a camera. These blinks will teach you how to do just that. But first, let's have a look at why it can be so hard to find your unique strengths.
Blink 2 of 7. Blink 3 of 7. Blink 2 of 7.
When news broke that comedian Dave Marr had died, friends flooded his social media with heartfelt last messages. Many recounted touching stories from his life or thanked him for always being there for them. 2 weeks after this outpouring, another post appeared on Dave's feed. It read, "This is Dave Marr. Spoiler alert, I'm here." Dave was alive. After he'd fallen into a coma due to kidney failure, his family had come close to taking him off life support. But then they never did. And a little later, Dave miraculously awoke. When he read what people had written about him online, Dave was moved to tears. He'd always thought of himself as a selfish person. Why had nobody told him before that he was anything but?
The key message here is, social norms prevent us from discovering our strengths.
In a weird way, Dave got lucky. He discovered how much he really meant to people, and it changed his life for the better. After his near-death experience, he started taking his health more seriously. He also began building on all the qualities his friends valued in him. Dave inadvertently broke through 2 powerful social forces that prevent many of us from discovering our unique strengths. Let's call the first one eulogy delay. Most of the time, we don't let people know what's special about them while they're alive. That's because our society still treats pride as a deadly sin. We wouldn't want to inflate anyone's ego. But we often need another person to help us recognize our unique skills and capabilities. The second hidden force preventing us from seizing on our strengths is transience aversion. In simple terms, we don't like to think about our eventual death. Instead, we pretend that we have infinite time to develop new skills, reach our goals, and become better people. But this only holds us back from making the most of what we have now. Luckily, it doesn't take a near-death experience like Dave's to overcome these barriers. In fact, the exercises in these blinks can also do the trick. Here's one. Take 20 minutes to write your own eulogy. What would you like people to say at your funeral? This will already bring you a little closer to recognizing what makes you special.
Blink 3 of 7.
Dave is far from the only person to turn his life around after going through a traumatic event. Up to 83% of people who experience trauma report that it helped them grow as a person and change their life for the better. Maybe it's because trauma reminds us of how precious life is, which brings us closer to the people and things that are really important to us. It's time to make a key distinction. Trauma isn't the same as tragedy. Yes, tragedy is often traumatic, but trauma doesn't have to be tragic. In fact, trauma is sometimes positive.
The key message here is, positive trauma can change your life.
Positive trauma may sound like a paradox at first, but there's plenty of psychological research into this phenomenon. Just like horrible experiences, pleasant life surprises can make you feel a shock of strong emotions, and that can change your perspective on things. Consider how game-changing it can be to fall in love, have a child, or buy a house. By creating a personal highlight reel, you can harness the power of positive trauma. So, how does it work? It's simple. Ask the people close to you to write down their fondest memories of you. Times that you were being your true, authentic, best self. Then read the letters that you've received. For most people, this is such a powerful experience that it completely changes their perspective on themselves. Before you ask your friends or family to do this for you, do it for them. Pick someone in your social circle who you're glad to have in your life. Take some time to brainstorm on what you think is unique about them. What do they do best? Next, write down a moment from their life where they used this quality to make a positive impact on somebody else. Be as concrete as possible. For example, don't just write, "You're a strong person." Instead, write something like, "When our family was going through a rough time, you were the one who kept us together." Finally, share these gratitude letters with them. You can do this via post, email, phone, or in person. Over the next 2 weeks, pick one person each day to write a gratitude letter to. This will let the people in your life know how much you appreciate them. It'll also inspire them to give back, and that's where you start creating your own highlight reel.
Blink 4 of 7.
It's time to start creating your highlight reel. All you have to do is ask your friends and family to write back letters similar to the ones you wrote them. It's that simple. And that scary. Indeed, many people think it's awkward to ask their social circle to give them this kind of positive feedback. But a highlight reel is not about asking people to tell you how great you are. It's about finding what makes you, you. The stories that the people in your life have to tell will help you pinpoint your unique character traits and skills. This will completely change the way you see yourself. That's a promise. So go ahead and take the leap.
The key message in this blink is, your highlight reel will help you discover your strengths.
Ask your friends and family to be honest and specific in their letters. They should write about at least one concrete instance in which they felt that you were being your true, best self. For example, one woman the author coached told her husband about the time he drove 16 hours through a snowstorm to pick up her stranded parents. As the letters start pouring in, it'll be tempting to read them immediately. Don't do it. To create the kind of positive trauma we talked about in the last blink, you need to accumulate a good number of stories. Once you feel like you've reached this critical mass, set aside some quiet time to read through them. You'll probably find yourself bawling your eyes out, and that's totally okay. On your first read through, just savour the sense of feeling appreciated. Next, read through the letters again, but this time do it more systematically. Is there any character trait of yours that people repeatedly mention? Write down the key words and phrases that people use to describe you, then compare those to the eulogy you wrote for yourself. You might find that people see qualities in you that you'd missed. We take our strengths for granted. Sometimes we even mistake them for weaknesses. One young man the author worked with thought he was too stubborn. He was surprised to find that his friends actually appreciated that he had a strong point of view. Reflecting on the letters will help you find the superpowers that set you apart. In the next blinks, you'll learn how to use them.
Blink 5 of 7.
If you want to reach your full potential, make a habit of using your signature strengths regularly. Let's say your highlight reel revealed that you're an excellent communicator. Then you should make sure that your life and work consist of opportunities to use this skill. This could mean scheduling more time to have deep conversations with friends, taking on a more social role at work, or volunteering with an organisation that needs help in the communication department. As we all know, making new habits stick is hard. Our brains like routine, so change often feels awkward at first. But once you're in the habit of using your strengths, you'll find yourself all the more energised, happy, and fulfilled.
Here's the key message. Visualization can help you make a habit of using your strengths.
Even if your strengths come easily to you, changing your life to maximise them will require constant effort, at least at first. Studies have repeatedly shown that the magic threshold to changing your habits lies at around 66 days. That's how long you'll have to stick to a new habit for it to become automatic. There's one incredibly effective technique that can help you stick to your goals and create positive change in your life. Visualization. Professional athletes have known this for a long time. Recent psychology research confirms that it works for ordinary people too. One study from UCLA followed 3 groups of psychology students as they prepared for their midterm exam. The first group was asked to set aside some time every day to visualize themselves studying for a test in a way that would result in a good grade. The second group was asked to simply visualize themselves getting a good grade on the test. And the third group didn't do any visualization exercises at all. Who do you think performed best on the actual test? It was group 1, the one who visualized themselves studying. Interestingly, the group who visualized themselves getting a good grade performed the worst. That's probably because they studied about 5 hours less than the other groups. It seems that for visualization to work, you can't just think about your goal. You have to think about how you'll achieve that goal. Writing exercises can help with such visualization, and you'll learn a few in the next blinks.
Blink 6 of 7.
Did you know that we spend around 1/3 of our lives at work? And yet 80% of employees worldwide say they can't be the best version of themselves in their jobs. That needs to change, which is why this blink is all about crafting your work to reflect your unique strengths. Now, maybe you're worried that you can't just go and change your job description. But work crafting doesn't necessarily mean changing the tasks you do. It means changing how you do them. With the help of your highlight reel, you've already figured out what you do best. You also learned how visualization can motivate change. Now it's time to put it all into practice.
The key message here is, design your job to bring out the best in you.
To figure out how you can better incorporate your skill set into your work, take 20 minutes to brainstorm. What work activities do you enjoy the most? Which ones activate your strengths? Which tasks do you dread? Then take another 20 minutes to brainstorm concrete ways in which you can incorporate your strengths into your work. Perhaps your highlight reel revealed that you're a people person, like the author's friend Charles. After rising to a top management position in his telesales company, Charles became unsatisfied with his work. As a manager, he didn't have many opportunities to directly interact with customers in the way he enjoyed. So Charles decided that each week he'd visit one client in the field. This wasn't part of his job description, but it actually made him enjoy his job more. Why not follow his lead? Every week, try out a new activity that reflects your strengths. You can also try to reframe dreaded tasks to make them more appealing. For example, one of the author's colleagues, Marcus, considers himself an introvert. He hates having to make small talk at work gatherings. But because it's part of his job, he's decided to reframe small talk as interviewing, which draws on his natural curiosity. So at each gathering, he picks 3 people to interview. For best results, keep track of your changes in a diary. To stay on track, you can even come up with a new job title for yourself. For example, the author's client Tim is a scheduling counsellor at a hospital, but he likes to think of himself as the connector because he enjoys bringing people together. What's your unofficial job title?
Blink 7 of 7.
Your life is probably pretty busy, even outside work. There might be lots of new things you want to try, but it just never seems like the right time to tinker with your packed schedule. But guess what? Your busy life is the only one you have. So stop making excuses and start making space in your daily life for your unique strengths. Usually, the effort required to incorporate a rewarding new activity into your schedule will repay itself 1,000-fold. Doing more of what you love creates a positive energy that will inspire those around you. That, in turn, will uplift you. Life crafting is all about creating these upward spirals of energy and inspiration.
The key message in this blink is, design your day-to-day to incorporate your strengths.
For this part, too, a writing exercise can help you gain clarity and focus. Pick one of your strengths and brainstorm 10 new leisure activities you could try to activate that strength. Perhaps you're naturally outgoing. Why not try a dance class? Or maybe you're really good with animals. Why not do some volunteer work at a local shelter? Next, pick the activity that appeals to you the most and give it a go. Using this method, take a few weeks to work through all of your strengths, trying out different activities to activate them. You can keep track of your journey in a diary. Try to bring at least one of your strengths into everything you do. You'll find that it often takes a little effort and awareness to do so. The author, for example, has to remind himself to make use of his openness and humour in meetings, which he often finds tedious. But when he consciously activates his skill set, he doesn't just find the meetings more enjoyable, they become more useful too. To strengthen awareness of your skills, try the doorway exercise. Every time you walk through a door, touch the door frame and ask yourself, who am I as I enter this room? Then go in and be the best version of yourself you can be in that setting. And if life gets difficult, it's always a good idea to revisit your highlight reel. The stories your friends, family, and colleagues wrote about you will remind you of who you are at your very best.
You've just listened to our blinks to Exceptional by Daniel M. Cable.
The key message in these blinks is that you make your biggest impact when you focus on what you do best. A personal highlight reel can help you pinpoint your unique strengths. All you need to create yours is a little help from family and friends. Once you've found what makes you special, you can design your life and work to activate your strengths. And here's an extra exercise that you can try out. Write yourself a letter from the future. Set aside a good chunk of time to write a long letter to yourself from the perspective of a future you. But not any future you, the best possible version of you. Imagine what your life would be like if you achieved everything you wanted, personally, professionally, and socially. What does your day-to-day look like? How's your mental state? Keep this letter accessible so you can reread it whenever you need a motivational boost.
Do you have some feedback for us? Because if you do, then we would love to hear what you think about our content. So just drop us an email to remember@blinkist.com with exceptional as the subject line and let us know your thoughts.